Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Thursday. It's January 26th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and it is Thursday, so this will wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Here's a look at our daily chart. As you can see, we've started a second leg up here. Um, we do have a break of this little short-term channel, and we started on a second leg up to a new high. That bounce off the support has continued today, so it's been a pretty strong reversal. Today was really a range day, but we closed near the high of the ranges, and you can see the resistance that we were finding up here was this upper band on the daily chart. And notice how prices pushed through it, but they couldn't close through it. We may get some continuation here, but we're getting into definitely getting to overbought territory. We may test this high up here again. We've tested it a couple of times so far. Um, this is our first close out, or I'm sorry, this last couple of days have been our first closes outside this trend line for this entire uh, contract here. This is the March contract, March 23 contract. And so that is our first close outside of that entire contract. I mean, we pushed through here but didn't close. We pushed through here but didn't close. And so we'll see what transpires here. Um, but for now, it looks like the path of least resistance is still to the upside. So, but when we flip over to the 2,000 tick chart, you can see we had a pretty good rally today, but it still was basically a range day, and most of the price action occurred between the overnight highs and lows. But we spent a large portion of the day rallying off the lows like we have. I mean, we've kind of done that one, two, three, this 3 days in a row now. So um, let's flip over there to the 2,000 tick chart and take a look at what that looks like. Okay, here's a look at the 2,000 tick chart. You can clearly see it was a range day. We did break out up here late in the afternoon, but by the close we were back inside. And this price level right here is right where that purple uh, line is on the envelope strategy on the daily chart, and that's where we're finding that resistance. So originally earlier I had the support line across here because that's where we were getting the most touches, and I think I had the resistance line across here. But as the day progressed, we ended up testing the lows, so we moved it down to where those lows were at, and then we ended up testing these highs before we pushed higher. So a lot of times the overnight low and overnight high won't always be the exact where you get most of the support and resistance on the range, and I'll usually will adjust it. Well, today I started out not at the highs and lows. I'd already adjusted it, but here today I adjusted it back to the highs and lows because that's where we got the most touches. So somebody asked me about that the other day, why I didn't always use the highs and lows. Well, what I use is where you get the most touches, and early on we were getting all the touches right across here. Much higher than down here. But you can see the final, by the end of the day, we double tested that low right there. So there's your triple test, and look how it go. Same thing up here. We came across here and we tested that. This looks more like one test really here. So we really only got a temporary double test that didn't hold. But prices, like almost all fell breakouts, they fail, even if only temporary. And this one did. It looks like we gapped open on the reopen there. Well, it's hard to tell. There might have been stem down here. I can't tell where that closed. Well, let's do this. I can. The low was at 40.67 and a quarter. So yeah, there is a gap in there. So prices are trying to fill that gap. We'll see if they do. They might be later on before they do, but they'll probably fill that. But there's a look at it. We had a strong trend. Well, we had a strong trend up. It was just kind of a continuation from yesterday's strong rally, and then we had two legs down, and you would look for a possible measured leg, and you can see we came real close. We didn't quite get through that overnight support, and that's probably why it wasn't a perfect measured move, but that's close enough to call that a measured move. and then we had another move up, and again you might look for two measured legs, and I believe that's close enough to call that. That is a perfect, well, we actually pushed higher than that, but notice how we turned down once we had that measured move. So we actually made, went a little higher than a measured move there. So there's a high level look at it, and you can see it's a range day, although we spent most of the late morning and early and all of the afternoon rallying off the lows of the range. So it looks a little different here than it does. It looks much more bullish on the daily chart than what we got here. Doesn't mean anything. We could continue higher. So, but let's zoom in, go through the trades, and wrap up this day and wrap up this week. There was a news item here at 7:30. So I don't see any. You might have wanted to take this trade here. There was a second entry short, and this was a lower high, still way away from the EMA. I didn't mark it because it's so close to that 715. I mean, this occurred at 705, almost 706. So, but it would have been a decent trade. So maybe you take that trade. I don't know. It depends on how, if you want to risk getting caught in this stuff here. Even if you did, it would have worked to your favor, but it doesn't always work that way. So generally, I'll tell you, definitely you might have ridden this out until like 725 or when it made its first bounce or whatever, and then exited. I mean, if you held on till there, that's 728. So yeah, if you'd have got out 725, you'd have got out probably right at the bottom of that before it bounced and went lower. So that would have probably been a good choice to get out just before the news item. And then of course we bounce. We get a spike in channel here. And of course, don't take anything in here. You don't want to take a trade right there, and we're just kind of moving up. And finally, you get a first entry, second entry, right at the key entry point, right at the EMA. Nice signal bar. It's about as easy a second entry as you get. And then we get another two legs back and get another second entry. The second entry triggered when it went past this bar. I would not trade that as an engulfing bar. I'd want to see this one close. It does close positive, so you could enter one tick above that, or you could let it break above and put your buy stop where it would have been one tick above that and see if it'll back up. But sometimes if you try to get conservative like that, you'll miss these trades. I marked this one green, but it's still clearly two legs back. But this made a new high here, and it is a little, there's definitely a leg down right there, but it still looks a little sideways. So maybe you count that as a new high and your second entry doesn't trigger till over here. And I like that trade a little better, but I wouldn't be afraid of this trade. If you recognize what's going on, don't be afraid of that trade. But that is the first close, and then you get your two legs up to a new high, and guess what? It reverses. And you make a leg down first entry, you make a leg down second entry, turns down right at the possible key entry point. We go ahead and mark it and see what happens. And we're close enough to the EMA there. If it breaks below that, it's probably going to act as a trap. A few minutes later, we get a lower high here. I marked this one green because it's so close to these lows. It actually pushes through and closes outside. So if it breaks lower there, it's probably going lower, especially since it confirms that trend line. So I like that trade, but it's one that's not perfect. So you need to be a little choosy on this one. You need to know what you're looking at, and you are taking a little bit of a chance there. So for that reason, I marked it green. We come back again, first entry, then it breaks higher and turns down, and there's a second entry when it goes past there. Again, I wouldn't trade this on the engulfing bar. I'd want to see how this one closes, and especially since it's kind of close to the lows. But if it breaks below that again, I'd probably go with it because you don't have a new low in place, and you got enough room to get out there. It ends up moving quite a bit. And so now you got your break and a couple legs down to a new low. And it looks like we might rally out of there, and then it just keeps chopping sideways. I don't see anything in there I like. You're just kind of in a range here. you are making higher highs here, but notice the lows are all bouncing at the same place. And then finally you get a triple test right here. Notice you test it once, twice, 3 times, and notice the new high, first entry, second entry, and there's still plenty of room back to the EMA. I like that trade. I really thought it would probably take off from there. I'm surprised it didn't, because usually that triple test will be enough to send it on. But it actually comes back again and tries to go lower 2 more times and bounces off that line again with another nice signal bar. You might re-enter there. It looks a little sideways, but there's some stem on a couple of these, but it doesn't have that doji look or tiny body. So technically, it's real close if you want to call that congestion or not. It's sideways action, but if you understand that you've seen this held 1, 2, 3, 4 times, the odds of you not at least getting a scalp out of that are probably slim. Even if it's going to turn down, it's probably going to push through enough to get a scalp out of it, because some of these shorts are going to exit. They're probably going to have their safety stops right in here close just in case they're wrong. And you can see how this takes off. They're probably hitting safety stops up through there for people that got short. And it just keeps running up. We get a close outside and a move to a new high, really all in one bar, but sometimes it's not good enough, and it's not here. It makes another run up. I don't see any entries there. I don't see a chance to get short. This one is tempting. Maybe there's enough room there, but I wouldn't take it. This line is actually just a hair lower there. But that is a triple test and a first, second entry long. It's almost a repeat pattern. And there it goes again. Quick, easy scalp, and then it turns down. No chance to get short. And then we're just chopping around in here. There is a second entry long here, way away from the EMA. And there is a break in new low, but sometimes you get that second leg. And since we just came off, well, technically we hadn't got to the bottom yet, but we didn't get to the top either. So there's a lot of indecision in here. So the lows are down here on this last support. So there's a chance you could go down there. I mean, this is really far away from the EMA, so it's one you could probably argue to be green. Coming back, we've bounced too many times. I wouldn't take that trade. It's a shame because that's a really nice move down. And then you get a close outside new low. It tries to go lower again and bounces. This is a double bottom, and you could call that a triple test, but there's a lot of space in there. So I'd probably wait and see if you get another test of it. And at first it doesn't like you will. Prices just kind of take off. There is a triple test here. I don't think I would trade that on the engulfing bar because you got that doji look, the small body. And when it closes, it's right here at the resistance. So this could be a range setting up here. So I don't like doing anything in there. And it does come straight back, and then it bounces again. And now you got your triple test, and that is a new high. So a first entry, second entry, and you're still way away from the EMA. I like that one. It breaks lower and turns up. Gives you a higher low here. Again, I don't think I'd trade that on the engulfing bar, but by the time that closes, that's a really strong bar. I like going long there. And then it comes back and gives you a failure. So this could be a reversal pattern. And so I like going long there, as long as you got room to get out before here. And you do. And then it comes back again. And you might, even though that ticks back there, this really looks like a true failure reversal pattern here. I didn't mark it because I think it's a little aggressive to try to trade a reversal pattern. So, but if you saw it that way and you took it, you were right. It does look like a reversal pattern. It turns out to be a reversal pattern because, look, off we go. But you can see there was some indecision because usually those reversal patterns really take off like this right here. But notice what happens. It comes back. You get a first entry. You get a second entry. So you get another reversal pattern right here. Plus you also get a second entry. I don't think I would trade it above that neutral bar, but when this one closed that bullish, I like that one, and then you can see it's off to the races. And this is actually up here. I think my lines have moved. That's what happened. So it takes off, then we're kind of chopping around. This one's tempting. I wouldn't trade that on the engulfing. If this closed really bullish, maybe, but it doesn't. So, and it, uh, I wouldn't take that. It rockets down. I don't see any short there either. And then it looks like we're going to go higher, and you end up getting two legs down. So there's a second entry long right there on a double top, a double bottom, and you might even argue that's a triple test across there because it does test it over here. And there it is. But it's two legs back. There's no key entry point here yet, but you're way away from the EMA. So I like that one for just a triple test. And then, of course, it finds resistance at the EMA and turns right back down. So then it becomes a failure. When it broke below there, it's a failure. Since there is enough room back, I mean, this trend line's not confirmed yet. This is mostly sideways. So with that failure there, after this big leg down, we could turn down right there. So as long as you got room back here, maybe you take that trade. And then notice what happens. It tries to go higher again, turns down, and then bounces. That's a second entry long, but the signal bar is not good enough. I definitely wouldn't go short there right into that trend line. And that looks like congestion by that time as well. So it ends up being another nice move up, and we do have the trend line confirmed. We work down, get a close outside and a new low, and then we make a higher low right here. This is basically a second entry long. Notice the new high, first entry, second entry, and we're in a strong uptrend. We just came off the lows. We hadn't got back to the high yet. As long as you got room to get out there, take that trade. There's a second entry short there, but I wouldn't take any shorts yet. Comes back and then it just keeps working higher. Technically, this is a second entry long, but it's right into resistance. This is a first entry and a second entry. If you traded it here, I'd want to let it break higher and put your buy stop one tick above that one. I just don't. This is too sideways here. I'd wait. It's getting late in the day, and you really never get anything else. That's a possibility. I mean, there's probably several of them here. You know, as I always say, there's some of them that you could argue to be green because technically you did pull back there. So you could argue that's a triple test. But it's so close to the trend line and didn't get back, and that concerned me a lot just looking at that one. And really, the triple test doesn't come back. So it's just a second entry. And technically, it's not a second entry. That's probably why I didn't make it green earlier, because it's first entry and then it turned down there and went back up. So there's your second entry. So it's not even a second entry. So that's probably why I didn't mark it green earlier. So we'll just remove that. I wouldn't take that trade. And there it is. There's another look at it. Pretty good trading day. I mean, there were several easy second entries today that were sure things pretty much, as long as you can find the trend lines and so forth. So it was an interesting trading day. For all the mixed trading, it was a fairly decent trading day. So hopefully you had a good day today. But I'm going to wrap it up. So just to kind of follow up, we did get the forum migrated over. Had a few little bugs. May still be a few bugs that we're working on. But for the most part, the forum is there. We probably lost anything that was posted over the last 24 hours. So because of the migration, it had to pick up at one point and anything that got posted in between while it was migrating pretty much got lost. So no way to recreate that. There were a couple of glitches. First, you couldn't post images. I got that fixed. I didn't realize I needed an add-on for the forum for that, so I added that on, and now you can post images. But I haven't. I also just realized that some of the images, or all of the images from the old forum did not come over, and that's a little concerning. But I'm working on seeing if that can be fixed and restored, and I will keep you posted on that. I don't know if we can restore those images or not. I think I still have the data. I do still have the database. I didn't delete it. So hopefully there's a way to get those images moved over. It may be more complicated than it's worth. I don't know. But it would be nice to have the entire original forum completely intact along with the images. The forum itself is pretty much there, just some of the images are not. So you can add images going forward, though. We did get that fixed. So for the most part, I think we got the worst of the bugs worked out. I'm just working on those images, and I'll continue to do that until I'll eventually either post yay or nay. I mean, you'll notice you'll know if we got it fixed because you'll see them there. But it's maybe possible we don't get those back. I just don't know yet. But we're working on it. Otherwise, forum's intact. You can go post and read, and everything should be there now, other than images from old posts. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you had a great week. Hope you have a great weekend as well. We'll be back Monday. I'm done for today and done for this week. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.